Welcome to the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner. This week in the Royal Corner, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, does more for British businesses with one single post and act than the entire House of Windsor, with her sold-out bookmark made in Wales by a small company of British women. Also have, in the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner this week, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, will be returning to the UK next week, Thursday, to give evidence in his case against the Mail, along with other celebrities. We also have the Green-Eyed King in Waiting and Duchess Doolittle hiring a crisis manager now that the videos have been released of the helicopter trip, 58,000 miles worth of helicopter trips in between residences because you're ferrying the children for a sleepover because mummy and daddy don't live together anymore. And the whole exercise is a charade to maintain the perception of a family so that they can keep on milking the British purse from the hard-working little people, taxpayers like us. We also have the Yuck Yorks and the Octopus one still not facing any criminal questions under caution from any law enforcement agencies, and having the taxpayers install high-speed broadband and security at their expense, of course, at the new residences which he'll be living at, not paying any rent, and will be paying for. But do move along because there's not much to see here. We also have, darlings, a ream of articles from the crisis manager telling us that Boo Boo Kitty Katie is so exhausted she won't be returning to work as we understand it. So her 2 days a month earning £2 million, that's what her and her husband get a month for doing what exactly? She won't be able to work as hard as she's been working in the past. Because it's just so strenuous, according to Tatler. Then there's Boo Boo Kitty Katie's mystery birthday lunch celebration where nobody saw her security and nobody ever took a picture of her once, but she was allegedly at the restaurant. Crisis manager, I think, article again. And the final thing, darlings, I might squeeze in a sycophant of the week, but the final thing is the newspapers are already salivating about the return of the Duchess to the UK. Such is their voracious appetite for anything Sussex, even if it's not true, or even being confirmed. Right, darlings. That took 2 minutes and 51 seconds, so I think I'll best jog on with the preamble. Thank you for your listening ears. Do like, comment and share. Please leave a donation if possible. I'm very partial to 3 rings and chips and a Miranda. And a bit of Bitcoin, of course. So now we've done that, darlings, let's dive in. So Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, has made an exceptionally bold move with another limited edition product. We previously had the chocolates, and now we have the As Ever bookmark. The bespoke bookmark made by a company in Wales, in the UK, which is probably overrun right now with orders, unlike anything coming out of the Windsor household collection. Nobody's buying any of that guff. Has a golden inscription saying, "Fall asleep here." Meghan is quite an avid reader and gives books as gifts. And this bookmark, as a limited edition product on her As Ever website, what happened? It sold within minutes. I mean, it's sold out. There's none left. I think they were retailing at $18 each, around about £13 UK money. And what was really interesting was the way in which it was received in the UK. The Mail wrote that it is touted as a keepsake. Listen to the language, touted. And what she actually said was, it's for those who want to linger, pause and return. The actual leather comes from the UK, and it also actually comes from Wales, and it also comes from Italy. And the company is called Sibri, and they're a small UK-based female-owned workshop specializing in handcrafted, made-to-order keepsakes. And she shared that in her Meghan newsletter. Now, why this is really important for British businesses is because if you remember a few Royal Corners ago, I talked about a report that had been put together by a marketing agency, and they identified that the Sussexes were effectively one of Britain's best brand ambassadors. But because they had been treated so poorly and the Duchess experienced racism when she was here, they have basically said thank you and good night. And it's been that way for what, over 5 years now. And what this particular product shows is that the Duchess can come up with elements of her lifestyle that people want to buy into. Hence, you know, her love of reading. So she has a bespoke bookmark, and now it's a product which is sold out on her website. Absolutely marvelous marketing and business acumen the Duchess has. And as you know, I always like to start my show with a good news story about the Sussexes. So to me, that was just, we couldn't really go anywhere else. So my second good news story is that Harry, the Duke of Sussex, is going to be returning to the UK to fight his case against the Mail. And the reason this is a good news story, and I'm framing it within this context, is primarily because it demonstrates that Harry has the convictions of his character. He is not bound by tradition because he's the first royal to be in a witness box in 130 years. And it shows his character because he wants to receive justice. Not just him, because other celebrities are involved, but the important thing is that he didn't back down. He wouldn't be kowtowed, unlike the green-eyed king in waiting, who took a portly sum, a settlement from Mr. Rupert Murdoch's media company. Court documents showed that in 2020, Prince William quietly settled a legal claim against Rupert Murdoch's UK newspaper business. Unlike his brother, he doesn't do brown envelopes. So getting back to the update. So Prince Harry will be given evidence in the High Court on Thursday. He will be joined by Elton John, who's also suing associated newspapers over alleged unlawful information gathering. Liz Hurley will also be there, along with Sadie Frost, to give evidence. What I think is going to be also interesting is that when Prince Harry does give evidence, it's going to appear in other news outlets, other more serious international news outlets. And that's going to take the framing away from the UK media to articulate it within a particular context, which will essentially allow people with a broader sense of what's going on to get some media information that isn't tarnished and perforated with the bile-curdling bias that you experience when you read anything about the Sussexes in the UK, well, in the British press. Also this week in the Royal Corner, it appears that Boo Boo Kitty Katie and the green-eyed king in waiting really are having to work hard to dispel this question of their separate lives. I mean, it would have been sensible for you not to make a, interior design video pointing to your wife's skill set in a completely different address. A mistake by King Dullard in waiting himself. And then the helicopter video of the children with their overnight bags for a sleepover. Because let's face it, Daddy doesn't want to wake up to Mummy anytime soon. And he lives somewhere else. Into this steps the crisis manager. I mean, why would she be stepping in now? It's a little late, isn't it? The crisis is well and truly cooking, as they say. Let them cook. The pot's boiling over, yeah? You're late to the party. You needed that memo at least 20 years ago, when they found out that the king's brother had very serious tastes and very concerning friendship groups. So the crisis manager has been described as bulletproof sunshine. That must be a comfort. And I listened to a chap called Ministry of Hacks, and he explains it perfectly, who she is and what she's supposed to be doing. Over to you, Martin.
Morning friends, happy Sunday, how the heck you doing? And this family continues to get stranger, stranger and stranger. Is this the end of the monarchy in 2026? It could be. Prince William hires crisis manager described as bulletproof sunshine by her old boss as Andrew and Harry sagas rumble on. Harry's been gone for years. Harry is more popular than these two will ever be, and they know it. But if they needed a crisis manager, they would have got one when Harry left. Andrew was outed as a wrong 'un years ago, right? Absolutely years ago. And this latest news connecting him to Epstein is over a year old. If they needed a crisis manager for Andrew, they would have done it over a year ago. This is all about the public's current perception, backed up by video evidence of the helicopter, that these two are actually separated. And we all know that these two have got various super injunctions out, so the press can't report the facts. They could have even had a secret divorce. Who the heck knows? Who the heck cares? I don't care. I want some honesty from the royal family in 2026. I want a return on investment from all of them, and I want them to start paying their way. They're my 3 wishes for 2026. 4th wish would be, quite honestly, for them to disappear.
So the name of the crisis manager is Liza Ravenscourt. And if you notice this week, there are a number of stories in the newspaper, which I imagine are at the direction of Miss Ravenscourt. We have the impending trip to Scotland, where Boo Boo Kitty Katie and the Green-Eyed King are going to visit craftspeople. Does that sound anything like the Duchess of Sussex's, venture with the bespoke leather makers? Suddenly, they're going to be visiting a craft maker in Scotland. What did I tell you about the looky-likeys? The cosplaying duo. We can do it too. Do you think they're going to be releasing any products? Because I tell you something, if the two of them release anything, no one's going to buy it. Who wants to buy anything with their face on it? Every clothes brand that Boo Boo Kitty Katie's associated with is either bankrupt, going into receivership, or insolvency. She doesn't bring sales. She crashes the bottom line. I wouldn't have her there at all. And I forgot to mention that I was talking about the Tatler Digital article about Boo Boo Kitty Katie, saying why the Princess of Wales will never return to the old pace of working life. What pace were you? You don't work. You know, everybody knows this is a gig. It's a grift. You did what? 2 days, 2 half days last month, and you're saying you're not going to return to that pace. So what pace are you going to do? What pace are you going to do? 1 appearance per every 6 months. Is that the plan? And we're still paying $2 million a month for you and ferrying your children in between your residences, using public money because you're using a helicopter because they don't take train. Is that the plan? Please. And if this Liz Ravenscourt is in her probationary period, I'll be looking very seriously at whether or not she's going to make 12 weeks. Because if this is the content and the quality of your output, I think you were overpriced, over-recommended, and grossly underqualified. Mediocrity fails upwards. Sounds about white to me. Meow, Denise, meow! Also this week in the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner, I forgot to mention there were a plethora of videos and articles because it was Boo Boo Kitty Katie's, the Dullard Queen in Waiting's birthday. And one of the articles was that she had gone to a restaurant, but there were no evidences of her being present at the restaurant. There wasn't a picture of her driver, the security, her entering or leaving. It sounded very much a bit like the she's not sick in the conventional sense, illness, in the sense that it wasn't a conventional birthday in that regard, because conventionally there was no actual evidence of her ever being present at the location. Once again, I've said, Miss Ravenscourt, I think you were overpriced. Also this week in the Royal Corner, we have King Bitter himself. Let's not forget that this royal family costs the general public £500 million. The sovereign grant, darlings. Not including the fact that he is also a billionaire with the wind farms and the Duchy of Lancaster estate income. It was revealed this week he had employed people in his gardens, paying them minimum wage. So 2 maids were being hired for the King's Scottish royal residence, and their hourly rate was £12.60. You'd think that the head of the English church and of the nation would be somewhat more generous with his funds and with his copious amounts of wealth. But apparently not. Let's not forget that last year, August, 12 of his staff, garden staff, quit because they were trying to have wage increases and wage demands. I mean, they probably don't have a recognised union because obviously the House of Windsor wouldn't want the little people to have any protection in the workplace. Nothing too serious. And I thought that was an interesting story to bring to you because it demonstrates the true nature of this institution. They'll want you to subsidise them, like I said, so they can go away every month, live in free houses, you know, for them and their collection of other hangers-on and succubuses on the public. But when it comes to them sharing their money, oh no, we want to pay the bare minimum. I mean, why was slavery even abolished? We could have had them doing it for free. Damn that minimum wage. But it just speaks volumes to me about how much this family actually cares for the nation. You know, the least you could do is pay them a proper wage. It's not like you can't afford it. You know what I'm saying? Oh yes, darlings. What's the latest with the Yorks? Well, it would appear that the detitled one, Andrew Mountbatten, the commoner, the same commoner who's faced absolutely no legal questions about his behaviours, the use of public money, and the things he was involved in with his friendship with Mr. Epstein. He's faced no legal sanction. All he's done is had some bad press and had to move. He's still getting paid at the public expense. Well, it turns out that his latest public expense location, the Sandringham Farm, is being refurbished again at the public expense. Yes, Sky installers were there installing high-speed broadband so that he could watch all of his favourite channels and not pay for those either. They were also installing security to keep the rest of the public safe from him so he could be enclosed behind preferably barbed wire. And finally, darlings, I know this is going to be a bit of a short one this week. The newspapers appear to be in salivation mode over the prospect of the Duchess coming to the UK and bringing the children. Harry is going to be here in July for the year run-up before the Invictus Games in Birmingham. And let's not forget they need to sell newspapers, so they have to talk about the Sussexes. And what more could be engaging for their audiences is the prospect of the Duchess returning to the UK. You could consider what she was going to wear, what the children would be looking like, whether you're going to get a picture, whether it's going to happen or not. Let's not forget at the coronation, my girl just came to the airport and she said, whatever, bruv, go and do what you got to do with your family. When you're finished, just rock up and we can go home. That's how it was. She didn't give two flying figs about the coronation. And now they would like her to give some more flying figs about whether or not she is going to be meeting with the king and whether or not the children will be coming. I personally would be suggesting to her, do not come to this country, okay? Security or no security. Stay at home, send a Zoom invitation, blur the background, and work with this family like that. Well, at least those members anyway, obviously not Harry, but work with those members. Treat them with a very long finger, or as my mum says, feed them with an exceptionally long spoon. So I was going to close, but I just came across something that I thought I'd share with you really, really quickly. So on X, there is a lady called Lorna TV, the editor, and she made a very interesting post about Kate's Christmas flop. And what she basically said was, Despite the sycophantic coverage from the majority of the country's media, so clearly my sycophant of the week, that feature is always well placed, should I say. ITV's Royal Carols Together at Christmas didn't even make the Barb Top 50 of the most watched for 22 to 28th of December 2025. But she then says, but luckily for Kate, she's not called Meghan, so the exact same media will ignore her failure. So I thought that was so interesting. Why? Because, like I says, you can be an absolute failure. You could be a dullard, a vacuous windbag of pus, and you'd still be congratulated and cajoled if you were in that institution and you were high enough up the food chain and socially insulated. You can do what you like. You can just create failure after failure after failure, not even do anything, and you will still be exalted and lionized. And that's the example here. Her show didn't even make the top 50, but yet the same media is silent, and they're spending so much time looking at and trying to criticize everything that comes out of the Duchess and her As Ever programs. Her program was in the top 10. Where was my girl? Please. You didn't even make the top 50. Brah. Hashtag Queen Lamino in waiting. Yes, I'm lame. I only produce mediocrity, but it will always be lionized in the press. And have you noticed, ever since that picture appeared with her with a facial scar, every other picture since then doesn't seem to have it? Interesting, don't you think? Well, that's it for this week, darlings. It's short and sweet. I hope you enjoyed it. Do like, comment and share. Make a donation, darlings. And most importantly, do come back next week. You can always join the live show on Friday, 8 p.m. on X. Just look for the name Denise Headley. And when I glow purple, that means the show is live. See you next week, darlings. Toodle pip. Mwah! Love you, darlings. Love you all. Down in front. Down, I said. Down in front. And cut.